Mayor? Benfield? Brooks? Trichet? Griswold? Bull? Hart? Moran? O'Gala? Weigel? And Houston.
Yes. Okay. Under old business, we have any minutes to approve today? No, I didn't think so. Okay. Under old business, Laraway dispatch update. It's just on there if there needs to be an update. I mean, you don't need to make any comment if there's no update. So anything?
Nothing new since the last time we talked.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any questions? Okay. Outside, I understand there are some people that are getting prepared to move forward, is my understanding. Is that true? I mean,
I guess we have more of an update than we needed.
well, I just want to ask, because, you know, I talk to you,
Yeah.
folks make comments to you like, oh, we're getting ready, and I don't know what that means necessarily, except,
Suzanne and I attended committee meetings yesterday. They were appreciative of moving some of the appointments forward. But my understanding is, talking to Brad Veerman, that they've revised the bylaws, that they're trying, and I've talked to several members of the 30 communities, that they are pushing, especially the fire agencies are pushing to get the bylaws done. And so we're going to try to have another meeting with them at some point just to answer any questions, although it's pretty, what we said before at committees, the county's portion is pretty simple.
Yeah.
Here's $1.4 million that we've identified in cost. That's the only thing you're waiting for. I mean, you're waiting, and we've given to you a long time ago. They have to decide their operations. They're going to pay utilities. That's their cost, and all these communities have to decide whether they want to be in or not. And I think that's where.
and the communities that want to go forward will go forward, and those who
That
don't
don't.
won't? Is
Right.
that kind of how it'll go? If there's a community that don't want to go forward, they'll just move without them, I guess.
I mean, my understanding is they're going to push to get these bylaws approved, and that's where people will then
Make a
do
decision.
IGAs and pass them in their boards. And then once the entity has been established, then we can formally take a document that we've already been working on with them informally and get that approved, because we can't approve a document until they have a legal entity.
Correct.
But I think there's a number of members of that group that want to get this done as soon as possible, and I think they've restarted their efforts to try to get it done. So hopefully
Okay.
soon we'll have that. So
Thanks, Nick. Okay, under new business, vendor insurance requirements. Okay. Mr. Tidwell and, who do we have?
Michael Lisa from Mesero.
Michael, yes. I want to, let me just give a little background on this. We had, and this had to do more with some consulting contracts. After we approved something, they came back and said, well, they want now some additional insurance. Basically, in that particular case, it was cybersecurity insurance, which was not part of the overall RFQ. And as far as I know, we've never requested certain kinds of insurance, even though I think technically you could say, especially when I ask an insurance guy, well, technically, everybody is a potential liability coming in here. But I do think if we're going to require additional types of insurance, then it has to be included in the document. Either the RFQ or the RFP, it has to be included in the document. You're going to require this additional insurance. You can't tell them after the fact, in my view. I mean, it's just, so, and Mary, you were part of this, so I expect you to weigh in. So now you're going to have to make a determination who's going to need these insurances. because potentially there's a lot of people who get access to information when they're a vendor. Is it only going to be those companies who may have to get information on like employees, or is there a lot of other types of security, cybersecurity, that has to be considered? That's just one. I don't know. Maybe you have some additional, more insurance you'd like to see, Bruce and Michael. Of course, you're not exactly an independent advisor here. You sell us insurance, so yeah. Well, in some cases they still get their fees, but my point is that we're going to have to address this, I think, in our purchase ordinance.
There is a provision in our purchasing ordinance that requires us to consult with the proper people on every contract to make sure we have sufficient insurance. And I do think most of our bids have insurance requirements. We have not typically had them for some of your consultant lobbyists, because really, there's not really any liability for like the lobbyists and those types of services that county board renders. The particular contract that you're talking about would incur a possibility of significant liability, and I'm not really sure that there was an RFQ process for that. I don't think there was. So there was no document to be relied upon.
Let me ask you, Mary, then does this go across the board to the state's attorney's office, who hires outside consultants and law firms who do deal with employees and so forth? And do we establish for those folks, or are they just covered under the county because they're special prosecutors?
They're special prosecutors, so they're covered under immunity in a way that
Okay.
the U.S. contractors are not.
But I do think it should make clear that, forget this particular one. The fact is that, I could probably point to a number of others that it was not in the RFQ or RFP. So I think we need to now establish clearly what type of insurance are going to be required in an RFQ. So I'll just leave it at that.
Depending on the type of services that are going to be contracted, that's how you decide what type of insurance really applies. There's a minimum across the board of general liability that we usually require. All, of course, the work comp and all that up there too. But for this particular project, Mary, I didn't see an RFQ on this exact one, and we've used that in the past, but the issue that did come up with this one is the project requires us to release HIPAA PHI, which is protected health information under HIPAA. And it's a significant amount of data because it's a 5-year pull of data. And there's also a chain of custody where it's going to go to a couple different entities. And so that's where the cyber liability comes in because of this.
I want to know when are you going to establish? I assume, for example, third-party administrators give us cyber, and at what level is it? Is it?
3 to 5 million.
Yeah, 3 to 5 million. Myself, on the property casualty, because I have access to the work comp, I believe we're way over 20 million in cybersecurity aeons.
I guess what I'm trying to do is trying to establish when do you apply it, whether you have it or not. It's not clear when it's applied. I just want to make it clear because I do think it's a newer area of liability.
It is.
So that's why I'm saying we're
Sensitive or protected information or access to systems, and it is becoming more of an issue. Obviously, last month we heard about the Illinois voting in Arizona, was breached, and you hear it in the news every day. There's organizations, whether it's government, private companies, insurance.
Well, that's, I guess, my point. What areas are we going to apply it? I think it could be applied in the county clerk's office, certainly the sheriff's department. Whether there's some unity in the state's attorney's office in some instances or not, I think it could be applied there. I mean, and my concern is that my concern is that it's not being applied uniformly throughout the county. And you can't say, if it's, so how do we establish that?
But I think it is established in the purchasing.
Yeah, but not everybody has to follow the purchasing ordinance either.
That's the problem. You're right.
So how do we, if this is a new standard, how do we make sure that everybody is applying to the standard? And where does it need to be applied? Certainly, the sheriff's department, I think, has all types of sensitive information, not just on employees. And I would say
Yeah, I'm not sure
probably the circuit clerk has a bunch of areas where the clerk, I want to
Anybody who
say,
takes a credit card.
that's the treasurer's office, that's the circuit clerk's office, the county clerk's office. I mean, but there's nothing being applied here.
So what are the statutory requirements if there's a breach of, like, identity theft or potential?
Yeah, put your mics on here.
Hit the star.
Yeah.
The requirements right now would be notification to all people that potentially would be affected. For the credit cards, it would be everybody that has used a credit card to make any payments with the county. If it's a breach of your health care information, it would be all to the employees, their families, and retirees. And the cost of that ranges between $50 and $100 per notice, per employee, per potential from the credit card, each of those.
Well, because I do think, and Mary, this is what I'll look to you for. I mean, the county board, they buy insurance for everybody.
Correct.
I mean,
For our, yeah.
I mean, it's not like
Our operation.
right. The state's attorney's not buying their own separate insurance, and so we decide. The county board decides and makes decisions on insurance coverages. So if this is something that we're going to have to apply, and you're going to say, well, you're going to need this in all these areas, I want to know where it's at. I'm not going to leave it up. It's really not up to the individual office holder. And I think we just have to make it clear, if you're going to require a vendor to have this, we just make it clear under the insurance program, you, sheriff's office, circuit clerk's office, will have to get this insurance. I mean, I'm wondering if we can cover it in that manner, Mary.
I don't know that there's a legal mechanism in place at this point that we can force the electeds to include those in their contract. We do not need to bring them to county board for approval. They don't even have to submit them to the state's attorney's office for approval. So there's really not a good mechanism. You can ask them, it's certainly best practices from a political standpoint. They have to answer to their constituents. They ought to be concerned about that issue. In the past, where there were these issues, there is statutory provision. So like if the sheriff wants to contract out to provide police services to some other entity, that does have to go through county board. And I believe that probably the thought process behind that was because it incurs liability. This is a new area, and I don't think the law has caught up with it.
Okay.
So
Maybe we need to have
Okay, so the other one is that we would just, as part of our general liability, just include cybersecurity to cover the entire county.
We already have it. What we're
No.
requesting is a vendor who
Well,
does provide services for us.
we
Why
have it. We're
not
just
gonna
saying-
cover them.
Well, we do now. You would still be responsible if the vendor didn't have it. It's just that you're going to put yourself in the second position for liability. They would be the primary.
Correct.
So we're always liable, correct? no matter what, we're liable,
Especially in
you
Illinois.
know?
Absolutely.
So all it does is it gives you an extra,
Right.
gives you
We'd
an
like
extra
to
layer,
Transfer it away is our goal.
you know,
San Diego soon,
so
don't you
you,
sue
we're,
everybody Potentially because there's a liability issue.
like I said, we're basically assigning, we're basically assigning the liability initially to, we're transferring the liability to someone else. But
Question,
we're ultimately liable.
a question on this. This whole idea of us being responsible and liable for insurance across areas that we don't even control, that starts to beg the question on how we set up the standards for security that's consistent among all these users, because we don't have that. And that, to me, is a huge problem, because if the sheriff's doing his own thing and the clerks are doing all their own thing and we're doing our own thing, and there's no consistent in security operations, and I mean, we are open for a lot of different impacts on this, and if we're gonna go in and pay the insurance for that, or cover the insurance, I just think that we need to have a little more discussion on what we can do to bring folks under one house and under
Yeah.
one roof, and
Yeah.
whether that needs to go and we start, like it was said earlier, about the law not catching up with where the cyber world is at, for us to maybe start lobbying with and talking with our folks in Springfield to make sure that those laws start catching up, because this is gonna be, this is just the start of where this
Yeah.
problem is gonna be.
You know, you're not,
extent, we've always dealt with this issue, because elected officials, they control the internal operations of their office.
Yes, they
They
do.
make employment decisions all the time. You are open to risk from discrimination claims, from grievances, from whatnot, and you have no control over that.
But that's internal, that's an internal system versus all the external activities that are happening here. This, we're not just talking about our employees, we're talking about our citizens sitting out there going, I want to use my credit card to come in and pay my taxes, and all of a sudden their name has been compromised and they're getting bills from Russia
yeah, because we've been hacked.
because we've been hacked. And so that to me, Mary, has a whole different connotation that we need to address.
I mean, I think that, you know, Mary, maybe you're right, maybe the laws just haven't caught up, and maybe they will. I would think that, you know, people have concerns. And I'm not here to necessarily solve this today. I just want to bring the issue up. Say we need to discuss this. I'd like to see the areas where we think this needs to apply. The county board will apply it to the executive branch of government. So things that come under the executive branch, will apply it. For all, any outside vendors, like I say, I don't know, does that mean the IT people that come from the outside, that working on our equipment, now they need to have this insurance?
Anybody who goes through the
I mean-
purchasing ordinance, we already do. I work with
Well,
Rita when we put
Jim,
the
even if they don't go
RFPs
through the
together.
purchasing ordinance, if our data is at risk, if you have an outside IT vendor that comes in here and works on our system, whether it was part of a bid or not, that person there's liability with that person.
Exactly.
So it goes beyond just the purchasing order, it'd be anybody who gets access to certain information
Yes.
in our system. And
data, right.
and generally, you know, a lot of these, you know, we talk about the external hacking, but a lot of this stuff happens internally.
Yes.
People selling information, especially like out of the banking industry and so forth. They get employees to give it to them, they sell it to them. Go ahead, Bruce.
Jim, I just want
Well,
to
like
make
our
a point
outside
that
auditors,
when we talk about the purchasing ordinance, Bruce, there's one paragraph in the purchasing ordinance that applies to insurance coverage.
Correct.
And basically, it says that you guys will determine what insurance coverage is required. It doesn't talk about cyber insurance. It doesn't talk about the risk. And maybe that's what we need to be talking about. Maybe we need Mesro to go back and come up with a recommendation to be inserted within our purchasing ordinance that says, under these circumstances, these as examples, and subject but not limited to, these kinds of insurance. And in that way, that can be shared with other departments. Again, I agree with you, Chuck, that perhaps we need a legislative remedy. But in the meantime, we should have a policy that's very clear and specific so that other departments can look at it and say, okay, under these circumstances, we need to have this discussion.
We
We
have
do that,
created
yeah.
that. Bruce and I worked on that earlier this year and have
Okay,
created a very
But we need to
thorough-
migrate that into the policy itself.
into your purchasing.
Into
plan.
the purchasing ordinance. So that they can act, it's because our purchasing ordinance is online. Anyone can go to it and they can see what's required. And so it's good it's done, but now let's get it into the document.
But even, like I say, in cases where you may not be going to a proposal, people who just come in and are vendors who come in and work on certain things, even they have to be included, that they would have to have certain types of coverage.
After
Now,
our
by the
rec-
way, this is gonna raise our cost because they pass that cost on to us. Just so everyone knows, it's not like they absorb that cost. If they have to purchase these policies, which are not necessarily inexpensive.
Most companies already have it.
Yeah.
It's some of the little independent contractors that don't, and that's the other issue. Just following our recent IRS audit that we went through, I'm working with Finance Department on tightening up
Yeah.
screening independent contractors, should they be employees. And so we are tightening up that process, and that includes all elected officials. So this is another area that we can address, where we can tighten that up, and like you said, if you need to go to Springfield.
Well, even that, I would think, Bruce, is probably another discussion of that we're treating basically vendors as employees. I think you just eliminate it. I mean, they're
We
either a
pretty much have.
company or they're not.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I mean, it's like,
They don't
it's
get-
not that tough. Go get a federal ID number and
Yeah.
show that you're submitting your quarterly.
Unfortunately, that's not
reports.
the only criteria, so we have to actually look
Well,
at
whatever it
what
is,
they're
but certainly
doing
that's
and the service they're providing, and so we won't even put them, or finance won't even put them into the AP system
Yeah, so.
until it's reviewed, so.
All right, so this is more just, so just come back to us when you're ready,
Sure,
hopefully in a short period of time.
sure. Well, he's actually coming back next month because of our renewals.
I was gonna say, and that's the other, I suspect I'm gonna see something in the renewal that reflects some of these concerns. So,
And the markets change all the time, just like when there's major disasters, natural disasters, we see rates go up, or now with the cyber issues, that's a hot button right now.
well, I think it'll be, maybe we'll discuss that next week, or next month.
Next month.
rather. Because I am concerned if we're not gonna have a uniform, best practice, let's say, by other office holders in this, then do we need some additional liability to cover that? I don't know. And we need to increase those limits because the other office holders are putting the county at risk
risk.
versus their vendors at risk. Okay, so we'll have to talk about that too. So.
Very good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Next with is Ann here tonight? Oh, there she's right in front of me. If I could recognize you from that far away, I wouldn't have done that, But I know somebody's sitting there. Now I know it's you. I'll get your shape there and recognize you that way. Ann, come on up. And your associate, if you want to, okay, you're gonna sit. Okay, this was basically, the selection committee did select CDBM Smith to do our freight study, and we needed to negotiate that, and it was negotiating on behalf of the county. I assume and Bruce Gould was part of that also, and I assume you came to an agreement, so it's all yours.
Certainly. So yes, we did spend about a week in consultation with the county, negotiating the agreement. Bruce Gold and his staff Christina Kupkowski and Jeff Ronaldson were assisting us with this, and then we also brought in Pat Farah from the Workforce Investment Board. We wanted to make sure that we got that particular chapter meaningful in a way of getting deliverables that will have an impact going forward. So I think what you have before you today in the agreement that was put together reflects all of those negotiations and the changes that were made as a result of the conversations we had with the internal group.
Okay. I will have something for, ask you, a question for you, Nick, but let me get this. So I'll entertain a motion to approve. We got a motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Great. Thank
All I
you.
can say is, okay, let's get to work, you know. And Nick, we're, and Ann, I think, well, if I can get Nick's attention, I'll get his attention sooner or later, you know. Nick and Ann, and we are looking for additional funding resources for these studies. There could be some grant money out there. Certainly, this study, I think, has impact to the region. And certainly you would think like CMAP and so forth would be very interested in seeing these efforts going forward and the information that it'll provide. So I think, especially since we've included workforce mobility and other impacts on the community in general, I would hope there would be some additional. So I just want everybody to know that you're still out there, and Nick, trying to find
Yes.
some resources if they're available.
And in
Okay.
fact, to that point, Mr. Chairman, we are meeting with CMAP this afternoon to discuss that very issue, and we do have other conversations going on with both public and private entities, so.
Great. Thanks very much. Any questions for Al? We gotta be moving now. Was there any questions? I didn't think so. Okay. All right, thanks. Okay, number 3 is, I think this is, not necessarily something we have to take action on today. We could move it forward if you think it's worth looking at, and that is that under IMRF, there's 2 standards. There's a 600-hour standard and a 1,000-hour standard. Almost everyone that I'm aware of has a 1,000-hour standard, which means you have to work 1,000 hours before you're eligible for IMRF. Actually, what it means, if you work 1,000 hours, it's a mandatory that you go into IMRF. You don't have a choice. We're at a 600-hour standard, which is basically 12 hours a week. We talk about public pension reform. There's not a whole lot we can do here at the county because we really just are part of a statewide pension plan that's subject to the state legislature maybe changing some things, but we can't change anything within that plan. But the one thing I think we can do is go to a 1,000-hour standard to make at a 20-hour week for you to be mandatory that you get into the pension system. This would not affect any current employees. We can't change anything for any current employees. So any employee that's here today that works under 1,000 hours but more than 600 is eligible, and they will continue to be eligible. This would only be for going forward for new employees. I personally think that it probably is the better practice. That's why most IMRF units of government are at 1,000 hours. One of the big concerns of IMRF themselves, and certainly the general public, is the whole idea of spiking pensions. And when people are at these lower rates, they do have that opportunity to spike that pension. Now, spiking means that you can work under a 100-hour standard for 20 years, and then you go full-time to any IMRF unit of government and say do that for 5 years at a full-time position, then all your time is paid at a full-time rate. And the reason that creates difficulty is because the pension then is not appropriately funded for the period of time. You know, when you work 30 years and it gradually goes up, that's funded for over the 30 years at those rates that you're working at. When you spike it, that's why it occurs more in law enforcement than probably most segments of government. But, you know, they work the last few years at a higher rate and they work overtime, and that's why we wind up writing some bigger checks sometimes to IMRF. So I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, if you want, you know, actually, this was brought up to me from others. I didn't come up with this. So Michael, you know, brought it to my attention. So, you know, Mike Frizzalone brought it up to me. So,
All right, well,
so I'm gonna hand him the.
okay.
I just kind of repeated what he said to me, but I'll let him repeat it again.
I do think we should move this forward. I mean, 1,000 hours is 20 hours a week. I mean, I'd like to see it to go to 30, but I think 20 hours a week is a good move forward. As you said, most of the other counties around us are at that standard already. And I think we should move this forward now, because as we go into a new budget year, it just kind of makes it simpler, I think, if we start that program now. I think in the long term, this will help us, and I think it's not unreasonable. 20 hours is not an unreasonable time. I mean, right now, we're at 12 hours. That's like a temporary worker. That's not even a part-time. It's a temporary worker.
It's less than part-time.
So a 20 hour is a reasonable part-time person. As I said, I think 30 hours is still reasonable, but I think 20 hours is at least is a first step to kind of get us up.
Based on
Based on a 50-week.
Yeah, the other, and actually, somebody could come in and work, if they could get their 600 hours in 2 months out of the year, then they can take the 10 months off. I mean,
Yep.
it applies, and it's mandatory, and I agree with you, it probably should be even higher, but that's up to the state legislature and IMRF. We can't do that. We can't change that. So,
Me too. Should I break it?
and by the way, the only other thing I would say is what if you go to this, you can never go back. You have to. You're forever at 1,000 hours, which I don't think is bad. Go ahead, Tom.
Do you have any idea of how many employees we have at the two different levels?
You know, I do not. Is Mr. Tidwell still out there? He headed for the hills. Okay. I don't blame him. I would head it. But I don't know, but I suspect there's some. I mean, I don't think there's probably a lot there, and that's, I think, even more reason we do it. It's not like we're impacting a lot of people in the county currently. But certainly, I think it demonstrates we're going to take that portion out.
It wouldn't impact anybody because it starts new, so there is no impact.
No, there's no impact. There's no impact. There's no impact, but
to our current employees.
to current employees. But my guess is there's some, Tom. I don't know how many. So, so if you want to bring this forward, I'll make sure there's a formal resolution that IMRF, I think, provides, correct? There's a formal resolution that IMRF provides if we'd like to do this. And if you want to move forward, we'll just have Mary make sure we got the right resolution in place. Go. Yes?
Jim, I just have a question regarding the email that was sent out. You know, I've opted out of the IMRF, but it says in the email that was sent that the same standard is applied to the 600-hour as it would be for the 1,000-hour. But at the end of the sentence, it says that you must enroll that employee in IMRF.
Right. The elected official, you as a county board member, had an
so
option.
it's applying for employees.
But nobody else,
Got
no employees don't have an option.
Thank you for clarifying.
If they work the hours, it is mandatory that you put them in IMRF.
Understood. Okay, very good.
Yeah. So, you know, like I say, you don't have a choice. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that I have regularly audits, and I can't speak for the county, but I'm sure it's come up here too, where, you know, like in my township, where you're trying to keep somebody part-time, you know, keep track of their hours, they go over, IMRF will tell you, you will now include them and pay everything going back. So, I mean, it's a mandatory situation.
Based on, I would like to move this forward. I'm not sure where the board feels about this or the committee, but I would like to move it forward. I'd like to move forward on the 1,000-hour requirements for the IMRF participation.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, and Bruce, you'll just make sure it's all, I don't know what else is all involved, but, okay, Mike?
Good morning. There's a few things to cover for the records management. I have the references, current pricing, where we stand with intelligent scan, the statement of work, contract, and also how to be paid for. So we spoke with the state of Michigan, their records manager for the records management department. They've been using the system since 2010. They said that it would be a good move, quote, I guess. They said that they have doubled in size and capacity every year. So by size, I mean number of users and possibly what they're putting into the system. They use it for electronic records, including audio and video. They use the workflows. They're created in their office and also by the departments. Their HR department uses it for case management, and they're working on utilizing the space management module for their physical records. I then spoke to the city of Portland. Their records management is overseen by their auditors department. So the person we spoke to there was the BISTM's systems analyst. His name is Brian Brown. They've been using the system since 2001. It went citywide in 2007. They have 2,200 seats, and of those seats, 1,200 of them are for the police department. So the police department has integrated it in with their record systems that operate. They find it very reliable, very versatile. They said that it was easy to tailor to your usage and standards, which is sort of reiterated by all three of the different entities we spoke to. They said that they rarely use consultants at all, and generally when they do it, it is for their bi-yearly upgrades because they have so many users to upgrade. And it's not necessarily the system that they're using them for, it's more for the communication and the education. They use it for physical and electronic records, including audio and visual. They use the space management for a centralized file warehousing for the city. They have public web access for their county council meetings. The audio is available online to the public as well as other records. They use it for their public building system. Their public building system is integrated into the content manager, so that it's like the final repository for the records. They're using it, looking at using it for an online permitting system for the building department. They build workflows internally, and other departments are encouraged to do so and do so. They use it for their email capture and classification as records. They use Kofax for their capture, which is an intelligent scan option, but other departments use a variety of other software programs. They say that once people use it, they have no problem with it. It's just getting them to use it and recognize its value. They believe that the service is good. Both thought it was good. Recommended that we get to know the service people, the Surface Desk people, and once you do that, escalation and most instances of challenges are met pretty easily. Overall, very, very positive reviews. Any questions about the review process?
Go ahead, Mike.
Did you talk to any of them about, I'm talking about cybersecurity, the security of the system?
If this moves forward and we go to county board, I would probably go ahead and bring in HPE and let them talk to you, like talk to the board about that. That's why people buy this system. All right, it allows us extreme granular control of security. So one person may be looking at a complete document. One person may only be looking at extracted data from a document. You may have to explain why you're looking at a document. I might request in the system to look at a document. The document will prompt you to maybe leave an explanation behind. Redaction, that kind of stuff. That's all part of the system and why people buy a system of this size. It's part of the DoD 5015 version E compliance. So
Nobody you talked to had any issues?
no, I mean there's always potential, but no, nobody said anything. Other questions about the review process? The current pricing is, because we have to split this between 2 budget years, that appears to be the goal. A little less than 130,000 would come out of the 2016 budget, and that would cover the software and annual maintenance. Out of the 2017 budget would be like less than 135,000, which would cover the implementation. That includes a production environment, a migration tool, because we will do the migration ourselves internally, a test environment, a failover environment, so that the system stays up and running even if we have a problem, basic scan, 2 workflows, implementation, help, and training, and then a bunch of other things, but that's pretty much the core of what's covered by the implementation.
Let me ask a question, Melissa, on the, do we have to execute a contract in the 2016 year to encumber those funds in the 2016 budget?
We already have the funds encumbered in 16.
We already did, we already have. So
We met with Mike about 3 years ago when this process started, so we.
Okay, so you've already planned for that, okay. Yeah, all right. So I don't know, does anyone have any questions? I mean, it sounds to me like it's, you've done your due diligence here, and that you should probably just move forward.
Okay. We will be putting the intelligence scan off. We're going to leave that until a future project, because I believe we can cut the price of it in half and at the same time get far more bang for our buck.
Okay.
So we'll try to do something simple in the interim.
Great, okay.
What would you guys like me to do?
Now, does that contract have to come here for approval, or is that?
I would have to see how it's in the budget.
Well, the other reason I mentioned it, I mean, this is not something you'll bring forward this month. It would be something you'd bring forward in November, right?
Yeah, and just so you know, I forgot to give an update on the statement of work. The state's attorney has reviewed the initial scope of work. We have added language to change the dispute venue to the local courts. We've added language to ensure all ownership of the images, data, metadata, et cetera. And we have verified that the software itself provides an export tool. So should we ever have to leave the product, we don't have to ask their permission or pay to do so. The redlining of that is taking place today and tomorrow. And then we would hope to have a final, or pretty much final statement of work to provide to the state's attorney early next week.
Okay, so make sure this is on the November executive agenda, so we can place it on the county board agenda for November, okay?
All right. Any other questions? Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next we have renewing printer and toner cartridge maintenance and yearly cleaning contract. Move. Second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Awarding contract for security guard services. Move second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Declaring sheriff seized vehicles surplus, move second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing the IGA with the, oops, I missed one. Declaring various equipment surplus and authorizing disposal. Move second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing an IGA with the City of Joliet for electronic recycling event.
Question.
Second,
I know we had that.
Second question. Go
I know
ahead.
we had that situation developed last year with electronics and so forth. How is this different? How will this be managed? Just some more information than what we were given.
Yeah. Well, basically, you know, we do this pretty routinely. I assume Dean Olson's not out there, so we do this pretty routinely with other governmental units. Basically, they run the recycling program,
Okay.
and we assist them and they're part of the program of the
Is this a one-time event,
disposal.
or is this more of a 1 year? I was reading the doc. Maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, so
I
right
assume,
now.
I assume it'll be for a
This
number of them.
Well, how long? What's the term on
This
it?
actually ends February 28th. It corresponds with our contract that we have for the manufacturing coverage of the recycling. That's with a
With
different.
that company in
That's with
Indiana that you're
ERI in
working with?
Indiana, right.
Okay, right.
So we would hope, we're in negotiations with them right now about where they are getting manufacturing funding for next year to do a one-year renewal. We have that option in the contract. And at that point, then we would move forward and do the intergovernmental agreements to renew for one-year periods. So all of them are all based on that contract.
Okay. I'm
So
glad to
that's
see
why
something in
it's-
Joliet
yes.
because it's been a long time since there used to be something here and then it went away and now
Yeah.
it's, for a time anyway,
Yes.
back. Okay.
So-
Thank you.
Okay, you okay, Don?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I just wanted some more information.
Okay, we have motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We got replacement hires for pre-posting for county engineer. We got a motion second. I just want to make one real quick statement. As you know, Bruce School, our longtime county engineer, well, county employee, county engineer for a number of years. I think 40 plus he's been, but he is retiring, and this is an extremely important position. So this is the start of that search for replacing the county engineer. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have replacement hires for the supervisor assessments office. Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next item we have on here, the authorizing the agreement between Seaford Properties in Will County, Manhattan Money Road, the Amazon property. They've asked for it to be removed, so I'll entertain a motion for that to be removed. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. A motion carries. Proclamations.
We have.
Sirs?
I don't have much of a voice. You know, the Pam's been removed. That's out.
Right, so we're doing the breast cancer and Eagle Scout, and then honoring the boys' 8th grade baseball team, state champs from Manuka.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I changed. I went back to baseball.
Okay, so you got it all set, who's gonna read them, or you will have it all set?
Yeah,
right?
we got it, we're covered.
Yeah, okay.
We're covered.
Okay. So, you wanna make a motion on the proclamations? Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You got the appointments of the county executive? Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next we go to, is there any other issues to be brought up today? Okay, then we'll move on to committee reports. We'll start with land use. Mr. Weigel.
I've got 3 land use cases and 1 resolution. First land use case. First land use case I need to make an amendment to it. The language that we adopted at our meeting was wrong. It said to amend from R4 to R5 to allow special purpose parks and open space. It should have said amend from R4 and R5 to special parks and open space. So I need to make
you're
that a
making
motion.
you're making
I'll
a
make that
motion?
motion now, and then we can move it forward to county board.
He's making a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Then you want to do a motion to approve it as amended?
Make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
We have motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Tom?
So that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Tom? Okay, finance?
Okay, we have a lot of things on finance. We'll be voting on the annual aggregate levy, transfer funds from the sheriff's courthouse security budget, awarding the bid for the annual audit, transfer funds from the circuit court budget, revising the user fees for use of countywide trumped radio systems. Will be increasing appropriation and funding 314 for series 2016 bond proceeds, and authorizing our OPEB contribution, and then we'll be abating taxes for several bond.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Frizzalone? Okay. Public Works, Don?
A couple things at the Village of New Lenox, including turning part of Cedar Road over to the village. Some condemnation cases on Bell Road in District 7. We have a speed limit decrease in District 4.
Any questions for Mr. Gould? Okay, so we'll move on. Judicial, Darren, have anything? Okay, any questions for Darren? Okay. Public health and safety. By the way, though, for those of you who may not be aware, Judy O'Gall's grandmother did pass. So keep Judy and her family in your prayers. Is there, I don't know if is there anything to report out on public health?
There's
one
resolution. It's one resolution to amend Will County Food Service and Retail Sanitation Ordinance.
Okay. So any questions that Tom might be able to answer? Okay. Then we'll move on. Legislative and policy.
Just going over the priorities for next year for 17, but we are not going to have a meeting next month, and nor will we having a election day.
So, any questions for?
Yeah, and it does, we do need to emphasize on the fact that right now, if any of the directors that you mentioned, the offices are looking for some priorities to put on our agenda, now's the time. We're going to get an email out in that regards.
By the way, you know, on election day, November 8th, you know, that's a normal committee meeting for us. There may be some rescheduling for like land use might need to be rescheduled.
Yeah, it does say here that we're going to meet on that date, but we're not. We're going to meet on the 15th at 11 a.m. after the Capitol meeting.
Okay. We'll make sure that's posted, but everybody be aware of that, so. Okay. Any questions for Suzanne? Okay. Capital improvements, Reagan?
We are authorizing the county executive to renew a lease agreement with the Will County Radio Lab, authorizing allowance for Saturday work on the Will County Public Safety Complex, authorizing the Will County executive to execute contract with Gilbane, authorizing an amendment to HR Green Design contract, awarding, and then, I'm not going to go through each one of these again, but the next items are all awarding contracts for bid package 2 on the Will County Public Safety.
Stop to your committee.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
Oh, yeah,
thought.
yeah.
They're on your agenda,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That's why.
Yes.
They're not on the county board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That, yep, that's it. Yep.
Okay. Any questions for Reagan? Okay. Okay. Executive Committee, any questions for me? Okay, there's no need for executive session, Mary? No? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the county board agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Any comments by the public this morning? Any comments by the public? Okay. Any comments by committee members? And I'll enter no comment, I have no comments. So our next meeting will be November 1st, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.